Hello everybody and welcome to My Hero Academia chapter number 369 review. This chapter is titled A Chain of Events Across the Ages. So, I'm sorry for getting these My Hero Academia reviews out on a really bad schedule. It's just not really worked the best, and I'm really sorry about that. But that should get into the events of the chapter. Of course, this is chapter number 369. I'm pretty sure my generation of children think that 69 is a funny number, and it is a 6 and a 9. Congratulations. This chapter doesn't really precede the last one in the beginning, at least, because in the last chapter we had Deku perform a Detroit Smash on Shigaraki, or All for One Shigaraki, whatever you call that thing at this point, pretty much harming and destroying him and doing all of that stuff. But this chapter starts off a bit differently. This starts off back in the past, whenever All for One was fighting the second user of One for All. As we see that All for One, of course, with his white hair, as he did back in the day, is holding up the second user of One for All by the neck. I am almost certain we don't know the second user's name yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did, and for somehow I have just really meant it, right? But we see that All for One is thinking, strange, how can this be? Your meta ability was only meant to work on small objects, never more in a lackluster pea shooter. It would be laughable to describe your actions as any sort of strange or meaningful resistance. Such was your insignificance, you unruly insect. That's all you were meant to be. And we see this idea, of course, that as All for One was holding up the second user, there was a gun that was fired at All for One, and All for One stopped the bullet using the transmission quirk that, the second user used. We see the second user is also here at the time, and he's just smiling at One for All, All for One, who is using this power, right? And as we see here in the current timeline, Deku, who is just punched Shigaraki in his absolute defense form with his, hands looking like his family or whatever, right? And we see that, All for One Shigaraki is also like, how is it I can see them now? As we see that, Shigaraki is seeing the vestiges around Deku, the first user, Yoshi, and the second user, who looks like Bakugo's ancestor. I don't know if that's still a theory people are throwing around, but with that sort of same idea, right? And we understand the name of this quirk. It is Gear Shift, right? And we get a description of it. Much like the others' meta abilities, Gear Shift's strength grew alongside One for All's. Its scope broadened, allowing it to apply to more diverse targets and function right down to the cellular level. Then there's a pure simple might built up within One for All, a fist imbued with these two overlapping powers, the Detroit Smash. And we understand now that the Detroit Smash can warp the very laws governing reality, as we see Deku use a Detroit Smash quintuple. And pretty much the description that I sort of get from this is that Deku uses the Gear Shift to amplify his power and get it up to a quintuple level, as we sort of see. And with One for All's power, it just makes a massive crater in the UA high in the sky, as we see all of the sort of sectors that Cementos and Creati, which is Momo, Yaoyorozu, and everybody else formed are all just sort of flying up in the ground, right? As we get this sort of panel where it's just Deku punching Shigaraki more and more, and it's just smash, 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 right? But we see All for One Shigaraki's like a lighter blow than before. This time it didn't have any of that glow he built up. Perhaps it's too fast to perceive. Based on the trajectory of that last hit, I can surmise the angle and timing of the next one, and know where, as we see Shigaraki beef up one of his arms in his absolute defense form, and pretty much time it to where he will get Deku in a very fast idea, right? But we see Deku slows down as he goes into low gear, right? As we see the second user say, gear shift adjusts speed without abiding by the laws of inertia. Shouldn't you know that already, All For One? As we, of course, get that. Of course, that's what All For One would have done to that bullet back in the past. He would have slowed down its trajectory, not abiding by the laws of inertia. And of course, for people who don't know what inertia is, it's pretty much that thing that slows down the bullets as they are. Or it's pretty much the law of physics that, you know what, let's Google this. I'm not going to try to explain inertia, being that's one of the 3 laws of physics or whatever. Law of inertia. Right. Law of inertia, also called Newton's first law. If a body is at rest or moving at a constant speed in a straight line, it'll remain at rest or keep moving in a straight line. That thing, right? So, pretty much, it'll stop going until its momentum runs out. And, of course, here with the gear shift, going in low gear, it doesn't abide by those rules, right? And we see Shigaraki is now like, in that case, as he actually hits Deku, right? And we get this idea that Shigaraki's like, pathetic, look what you just did. As we see that Deku is now up above him and has used a black whip to pull Shigaraki off the ground, right? And Shigaraki's flying off the ground, and Deku's like, after adjusting my timing, I can use the Force Danger Sense to detect the threat, and the 6th smoke screen to obscure his vision. Then the 7th's float provides some instant height, and the 5th's black whip catches him unaware, so I can bind him and yank him towards me. Finally, that earlier quintuple cat gave me a refill of the 3rd's Fajin, and for another blast of overdrive courtesy of the 2nd's gear shift. And this is a really cool moment of, I think, Deku using every single power. He's using the 2nd's gear shift. He's using the 3rd's Fajin, 4th Danger Sense, 5th Black Whip, 6th Smoke Screen, 7th Float, and of course, All Might's boosted power that he put into the quirk, showing that Deku has truly made this quirk his own, right? And we see the second user saying, our meta abilities were never what you should have been wary of. Rather, you should fear the reason why someone chooses to use your gifts. True power resides within an individual's intent. This is why, and we see that Deku's like, this time, I'm giving it everything I've got. As we go back all the way to the past, around chapter 200, during the Class A and Class B fighting matches, right? As Donjoro Banjo says, you're going to be the one to complete One for All. As Deku's like, All For One, you don't get to hurt anyone else. As we see Shigaraki is breaking in his all defense form, and he's like, silent, you insect, you maggots. As we see Mirio running all around the place, going to help everybody. He's helping Nejire. We see Edshot inside of Bakugo trying to save Bakugo. We see Tamaki on the ground along with Miriko. And we get this idea and just this little tagline of people call them quirks, right? As we see Deku has used his insane power, there's not even an attack name for this, right? As we see just a hole has been blown through Bakugo, right? And we see the second user of One For All say, we're resonating. One for all with All For One, and all for one with One For All. I can see my brother, the young man with with the bean eyes. The young man with the bean eyes was correct. And we sort of see that Mirio has a correction here. The bean-eyed young man, right? Pretty much going through what was it? What Mirio said earlier about, that Shigaraki had inner turmoil within him, right? As we see this idea of, All For One sort of wrapping around and this inner battle in between, All For One, Shigaraki, or All For One and Shigaraki being that they're still the same person, right? And we get more dialogue of the course of this battle, the chain of events leading to this moment, has shaken the balance of their supposed melding. Here comes your moment, boy. Don't forget what Shimura said. You can't take it easy just yet. As we see, Shigaraki All For One is falling to the ground as All For One on the inside is just going, giving everything you've got, you say? And that business about quirks? Surely you jest. I haven't used a single quirk yet. I've yet to braindish the true value of this body. They're to blame, the wretchedly unsighted Eraserhead and his merry brats, and this tomb of theirs, their sneaky little ramshackle ploy. This is all to divide us, the whole sequence of events that led to this moment. As we see 9 stars come around All For One Shigaraki in his body, right? As we sort of see Deku and everybody around him like, what's going on? And Eraser said, like, another trick up his sleeve. As, what's it called? All For One Shigaraki's just like, no, not yet. Indeed, Yoshi, the entire chain of events will now inevitably spell out victory or defeat for all. Not yet. Victory is still within my grasp. Oh, I talked too loud there. My voice got destroyed. But pretty much on the last panel of this chapter, after we see the 9 stars form around All For One Shigaraki, we see a pretty much a Spinner on steroids, right? This big monster, who is obviously Spinner, who is walking around the town and obviously causing a lot of harm for everybody. And that is chapter 369 of My Hero Academia, Chain of Events Across the Ages. The title is very fitting for this chapter. It's truly showing the chain of events of a chain of one for all being built up and built up more to eventually spell out the defeat for Shigaraki, at least in this stage of the battle. Of course, it seems that there's more. What effect is Spinner going to play into this? And of course, being that I'm really behind on these reviews, we already know. And it's just this idea of, alright, what's next? And where will the chain of events go next? And that's going to be it for me. Really great chapter. One of the best we've had in a long time. And, well, this would be Glowplasma231 out.